Hello everyone, welcome to Zindagi Ka Tadka. Today we are here with Bijal. He is a serial entrepreneur, is how I know him, and there is a lot to learn from him. I really get inspired by talking to him. So I'm sure you all will also have a wonderful time. So hello, welcome, Bijal. So as I said, the way I know you is like you are a serial entrepreneur. लोगों से एक startup नहीं बनती है, and like you have been doing it over and over and over again. So what's up with that? Like how come so many startups you have been able to build, and what is that drive that you have?
So, I mean, it started early on. Dad was in a bank called Dena Bank. Um, so, they put me in a very nice school in Mumbai, a school called Jamnabai Nursery School. And we were surrounded by my friends' parents, and all were industrialists and highly achieved people. So, at an early stage, I asked my dad, like, you know, how does one have this kind of success? And he said, typically, at least especially in those days, I mean, things have changed obviously in the professional world, but that time it was like, these are all businessmen, so there's no limit. Salaries have limits. So at an early age, I figured, okay, business looks like an interesting way to
Right,
achieve something.
right,
So,
right. No, but still, as I said, many people are able to not even build like one thing in their whole lifetimes, but you have been able to build something, then exit, then build something, then exit. So, like, what has been your experience around that?
when you start something, you don't think of the exit typically, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just want to build something. You identify a problem to solve. So
Hmm.
typically, I kind of call entrepreneurs, all of us, when friends, dinner parties, at any age stage, we all have challenges. You'll complain about traffic or politics or trash or the number of things.
Yes,
What
yes.
differentiates an entrepreneur is they actually want to do something about it. That's the difference. So I always tell my kids, you want to be part of the problem statement is good, but spend your time, if you can, be part of the solution
Solution.
mindset.
Right.
So I would say mind is curious, mind identifies issues, and so then you start thinking, hey, is this an area where I can contribute? So that's, and then the exit comes, where you feel either the partner, the acquisition company, if you believe that the cause will be better, sort of has a better opportunity with that partnership. So that's just you figure out the numbers around it, but typically the goal is always to get it to the next stage. So whether you
Got
do it organically or inorganically.
Makes sense. And you have, as because of this, you have done it in like different eras. You started in like maybe 80s, 90s or something, and you've been doing it since. What changes have you seen over time in building such companies? And I think you started from the US and now you're doing it in India. So the times have changed, the location have changed. So how has that been?
So in my career, yeah, you're right. It spanned almost 3 decades, over 3 decades now. So I would say the involvement of technology in the early years, we all went through such an amazing stages, right? Like what started out as personal computers. Even before personal computers, you had these mainframes. The accessibility was very less, but personal computers, sort of that was a big wave, right? The whole
Yeah.
Microsoft's
Bill
vision of
Gates and
Bill Gates saying computer in every desk, computer in every home, right? So then that was one wave. Then came networking. There were companies like Novell, and then came your mobility, right? Like where there was laptops, or today the mobile phones. Internet obviously happened, and now of course we are walking to the AI revolution. So I would say every step of the way, the involvement of technology in all aspects of an organization has increased.
Tell me about your first company.
The first company was called Excel.
Okay.
So I went to, in the US, I went to a college called Virginia Tech. Very early on, we were experimenting in college. And I have to say this on your podcast. You could be whichever side of the political and whatever's going on in the US right now, but no better country when it comes to innovation. And because they have the fundamental cultures to question the status quo. So when you're there, like, how can you do something better? So what got me started, my parents by that time, my dad left Dena Bank. We'd moved to the US. I was doing computer science, and he had started, the small business is one of the drivers of
Yes.
US economy.
Yes.
And he opened a few video stores. And then first software I wrote, once I was learning what a databases are and what automation is all about, I wrote it for my own parents.
Wow.
So I wrote that software to automate their business. But the innovation, what I wanted to say about is there's just incredible research, and the academia and and industry. There's no better country in the world that has done that. So we all hear about Stanford, Harvard, and all these amazing founders. But what's incredible, and I think a great opportunity for India is student startups. A lot of people don't realize what's common between Microsoft, Google, Instagram, you name it. Most of these were student startups. They was, and Stanford enabled, Sergey and Larry to sort of have the infrastructure to do that work. And so risk appetite, I remember in those early years when we came to India for my second company, parents were like, what's this, why would you want to go work at startup and you can work at an Infosys, it had more marriage, you could get better, so all of those things. But obviously that's changed, amazingly. Today we have so many unicorns and whatnot. But I would say that the atmosphere in the college itself was very, very pro entrepreneurship, pro startup. Question the status quo. What can you do differently? If my parents, I would go and question my parents, why are you doing, why are you running your own small little business this way? Do it this way. And there was a lot of friction. My dad's like, I like it this way. I want to do things a certain way, and I don't know how to use computers.
I know you said like US is obviously has great environment and all. Here we have institutes like IITs and all. Do you see any similarities, or like we are still ways to go?
I think India has to really pat itself on the back when it comes to the success of IITians, right? I mean, or BITS Pilani, or RECs, or the NITs, all of that. I mean, phenomenal. That I read a recent study done by a Stanford professor where founders, of American unicorns, some large number, like 130, 150 founders of American unicorns, where the founders' academics, the bachelor's degree was done in India. They may have gone there for the master's degree and whatnot. And this is not just your Sundar Pichais and your Satya Nadellas, who are phenomenal professionals, right? These are people who've started businesses who actually, so India, they were trained, groomed in the foundational stages here. So I would say the Indian academic system, but when I say that America does this really well, I don't think we do as good a job at integration of industry and colleges. I think we could do better as a country. So for example, if you have 2% of your CSR funds have to be spent on NGOs, why not allocate maybe some percentage of that 2% percentage towards value creation? It's one thing to give free food, which is great, but why not also allocate some funds towards intellectual property building, and investing that, because that creates more opportunities. The whole R&D component, the equation, right? That's the US does it, whether it's in pharmaceutical
There's like
industry,
the grants, right, from the governments, not the companies so much.
No, both. I mean, all these, if you look at grants, of course the government also does so, and I believe the Indian government does too. But when you look at the actual statistics proportionally, as a percentage of GDP, or significantly higher R&D budgets.
Is this the reason like so much of brain drain type of things happen, or you are now seeing like people are staying back here or they're coming back even?
Economics certainly drove, why people wanted to go to the US, stay there. Of course, opportunities, the kind of projects, the exposure you would get, all of that added up to it. But India's in many ways caught up on the opportunity side. We have some. I mean, the internet made everything a level playing field. And even education with all your Coursera's and your free courses, anyone can attend a Stanford course or MIT course sitting from here. So I would say, India is the most amazing place to do a startup. I mean, I moved back after my second company. After I came out of that company, it's not easy to do a startup in the US from a financial perspective, right? Unless you have deep savings, or if you're very early as a student, then you can take risks. But if you're in that 30, 35-year range and you have ideas, it's just the insurance alone. Your family in the US is going to cost you more than it's $2,000 like a month, right? If you're on your own, you got to cover that. For example, that just gives you one idea. And if you want to hire two people, I mean, because you cannot not have insurance and things like that. So India, on the other hand, food, rent. I mean, it's extremely startup friendly, right? In that sense.
This is great. Like I have always heard, like those countries are very startup friendly, but you're saying for a founder, you need to take care of so many in that.
I'm saying just the cost of living in the US, and that's only gone up.
You were telling initially about what you were doing at Excel and Arcturn and all. Like, what was that idea? How did that problem come in?
So Excel came about simply because, having moved from, as a student, on my dad's Dena Bank salary, everything was cost prohibitive. Even the student discount IBM computer in those, it was like $3,200, and it was not easy to afford. So call it Indian Jugaad or whatever. My roommate and I, assembled our own hard drive and motherboard and all that, and we were able to do it for like $800.
Oh.
So, like similar, specs. It's just not the IBM brand. The bigger thing is like, let's take risks now, because this is the age. Once you get married, car payments, EMI, house payments, all of that starts adding up, and then your ability to take risk reduces. So we somehow chose to start Excel, and the idea was, let's do systems integration. We have ideas for software products based on what our professor, the work we were doing, and we said, let's just do some consulting, some assembly work on the side while we build the product company. Turns out the timing was pretty amazing. Our location was amazing. We were in Northern Virginia, which is like right outside Washington, D.C. So you have all these government agencies. So our customers became like Washington Navy Yard and National Defense University.
Wow.
And so we started selling to those, we'll do networking for them. And we became a systems integration company, and we grew rapidly. So, and then, we wrote the software to run that business. So again, we were like 1/5 or 1/6 the size of Dell at that time and stuff like that.
Wow.
But we were not interested, because we really wanted to focus on software. So in building intellectual property, it was like almost like a crusade. And then started under the brand of iCode, and we started building iCode as the mini ERP. While I was there, we raised almost 12-13 million dollars. We were really early to do product development out of India. First, the discussions were like, hey, we took the software engineers, let's hire a team to build the next generation of a product. India has other talent other than software engineering as well.
Yeah.
So the idea was, but those other functions require US interaction, client interaction, tech support, let's say, and things like, or pre-sales, or some of that. So okay, night shift, and then I remember discussions with my other founders saying, but who's going to work in the night?
Right.
And then we took inspiration from the travel industry, saying, well, when you go to 5-star hotels, there are nice English speaking people at the reception. There are pilots who are flying at 2 a.m, or so we said, let's give it a shot. And we hired a few MBAs, and they became today most of them are in the US and doing extremely well in their own right.
Bold decision, huh?
Competing with Microsoft Great Plains and Dynamics and SAP Business One or NetSuite. These are
so now, from your experience, you like bootstrapped companies or VC, or it depends upon what type of problem you are solving. So how do you make it call?
So ideally you want to bootstrap it till you have some kind of a, not just minimum viable product, but some kind of a happy customer. And in the big history in the software industry has been, you write for yourself. You'll have certain requirements. Is it meeting your own needs? So the day it meets your own needs, saying, yeah, it's starting to work for me, it's giving me a return. Then you say, okay, well, looks like are there other people like me who will also benefit from it? So I would say once you hit that, then it makes more sense to sort of seek out investment.
And you're looking for money for what? Like for more infrastructure, to hire more people?
So typically, money is to buy you time. Because in those early years, still tremendous amount of experimentations happening, both from feature, prioritizing what feature sets, what customers are telling you, what feedback you're getting. If your product's not, embarrassing enough, then you've launched it too late. So don't try to get everything right up front.
I see.
So then the money that you raise is for more experimentation, right? And then whatever's working, to multiply, to execute against that. So it helps you on both ends, both sides of the equation.
And then how do you choose your VCs? Many people, first of all, will not have access to such.
So it's a great question, because again, the stage is really important. I don't think depending on what you have achieved, and especially if it's a first-time founder, they're going to typically always look for customer traction. So it starts with friends and family or your own savings. Then you hear the term seed. Ideas are good, but the more you can show to reduce the risks for any investor, and then it's a risk reward equation. Your valuation, everything's going to be following that. And Series A, Series B, you don't select the VCs. Typically, the VCs select you. From an early stage, don't focus too much on VCs. Focus more on angels.
And what is your take on like a co-founder? As in, if I have an idea, I just continue to work on it, or I should find a co-founder? And how do you find such a co-founder?
So I'm a big believer in having co-founders. There are many benefits to having a co-founder. And I think a lot of investors look for that as well. Of course, there's exceptions. Typically, the first bet of a co-founder is, you were able to convince somebody else about your own idea. So you widen the spectrum of views. That's
Hmm.
important in those early years, because so many companies you hear they pivot, right? So having a co-founder, somebody you trust, is important. I think I would highly recommend doing it. Don't go at it all alone.
So, but co-founders is like my friends from school, college, or my colleagues, or sometimes there are things like online you can find.
I don't think there is a general theme there. There are stories where good friends, Larry, Sergey, or Bill Gates and Paul Allen and Steve Ballmer. I mean, there are great stories of college friends coming together, building stuff.
Hmm.
Airbnb, enough stories. So I would say if you have somebody you have a great equation with, the ability to complement each other, the ability to argue with each other in a respectful way.
Hmm.
A lot of times things fall apart because egos get hurt and whatnot. So
Yes.
if there are ways where you can manage that emotion part and the personality side, then always a good idea, because then it's a known devil, right? But there are also cases, I think Dropbox, there were like where Drew found he had never worked with that guy before, or academically or any of that, and they came through one of the investors and things like that. So there are stories both ways. The chemistry matters, the ability to communicate matters, respect in terms of you have to value what the other person brings, allow the other person to change your mind.
And so in the early, let's say the first startup again, is it always kind of a rebellion in terms of your friends and family, or they're supportive or helpful, or
My dad was supportive, and he's like, yeah, take the risk, let's go for it. And my mom, extremely wise woman. I mean, I learned a lot from my mom. She said, right out of college, you can always go do something, learn under someone,
yeah.
get and I can see, I'm glad I did it. I took the risks, and we found some kind of traction and success. But I also feel, had I also listened to my mom, it could that could also have been a very good journey. For example, where you're getting molded under a good boss. Make sure you find yourself in a situation where you really respect your boss, right? You shouldn't be in a job just for the salary or for the brand of the company, and you don't like the work, or you don't like the way the work is being asked of you. Then it's a waste of, like, get out of that, and don't wait too long for that. Find yourself in a very nurturing atmosphere where you feel and you respect your boss.
You never did a job or something, right?
Yeah.
But there are people who have done jobs and now they're thinking of moving into a startup. So which is easier, like directly doing something on your own and take those risks, but once you have tasted the salary drug, after that doing a startup, it becomes a little more difficult, and your all the well-wishers and the wise people around you would be suggesting like, why would you want to do that?
Largely, if you think about it, depends on the idea you're chasing. You don't want to just say, I want to be an entrepreneur, let me quit and let me see what I can do now as an entrepreneur. I don't see how that works. You've got to find something. People use the word passion, whatnot, but you've got to identify a problem you want to solve. I think that's the starting point. So whether you're in a company, whether in college, you have to feel passionate about a problem solved. Like, why is it like this? It can be done better.
Mhm.
Not like, I just want to be an entrepreneur, now let me go look for a problem. Let the problem drive your entrepreneurial spirit, not your entrepreneurial spirit drive looking for a problem.
And if the problem is like, I hate this job, so I want to do something on my own, is that a good starting point or not
So
really?
that's a good thought, right? I hate my job and I want to do something on where I don't like. I've not had good luck with bosses.
Mm.
I know so much better. Then put your energy on identifying the problems.
And what kind of skills do you need to have, skills or traits, for somebody to actually start on their own? Or because for many people say like, job is also not a bad thing to, if you are meant for doing things in a contained environment, or you do what are you being told, versus you are yourself taking decisions and going a number of experiments you're doing. Like, are there any traits that you have seen which are more found in successful entrepreneurs versus?
Oh yes, absolutely, numerous. So risk appetite, right? You have to be okay to fail. You can't have such a big ego that you feel like if you fail then you look bad, and you don't want to look bad, right? So you should be happy to fail, right? Because you will fail in n number of decisions, and it's okay. But overall, we've all heard the Michael Jordan stories, right? For every so many baskets, I've missed so many baskets
Yes,
or whatever.
yes.
Real startup, to me, is that 0 to 1 story.
Hmm.
Right? When you're trying to figure out whatever you're doing and you're getting your first set of paid customers, that's difficult. That's that experimentation mode. That's where you need true grit.
Yes.
So the ability to pivot, just keep keep navigating through the difficulties when people are saying yes, no, that is the hardest part. When 1 to 10 is a different skill set, 10 to 100 is a different skill set. But if you're talking strictly the early stages, that formula, you're in discovery mode as a
Hmm.
founder. You like find, what will work, because it involves financial metrics, right? Getting that right, the right team, the right product, right? All of that, you have the ability to put that together. So you have to be a team. It's a team sport. Entrepreneurship is a team sport. Yes, you see these big names in the front, in the
Yeah.
in the forefront, but very much a team sport. So you have to be a team person. If you've been contributing and you're finding flaws with others and you think you're the hot dog, that's good, but you've got to depend on others to build something of value.
The first thing you said, like you have to be okay with failing, right? We value others' opinion about us so much कि वो क्या कहेगा मैं fail हो गया तो, and I have done these, because let's say you would have done 3 4 successful startups, and now when you're starting, let's say, a fifth one, it's no guarantee that that will also pass, and then you have a status to maintain and things like that. So how do you build that ki it's okay to fail? Like it's very hard in my opinion.
It is. I mean, a lot of emotions involved, a lot of soul searching.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of questions. You're absolutely right. The safety net is not there, right? But despite all that, if you feel like you want to go solve it, not, so you have to overcome that, saying, I'm not going to let that come in the way. If in college, if you really like a girl, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone's going to go tell her that I like her, or even go approach her, right? For example, but the ones who do, have a chance at least.
Yeah.
So that's, so yes, rejection, fear of rejection is an important thing, but you got to be able to go through that rejection if you want something.
Hmm.
So, and I don't think it's an inert trait or something. I think it can be understood, that perspective. Once it's understood, then you can change yourself.
And how do you build upon that? Like you see others' stories and then you get inspired, or it, because you said it's not something innate, you can build upon it.
Yes, you should have real satisfaction in whatever you're doing, solving, solutioning. That should be fulfilling.
Hmm.
That's what innovation is, at the heart of innovation, right? Finding another way
Hmm.
and a better way, and testing out that better way. And it's everything has to make sense, the quality, the financial metrics, and others have to also agree that it's a better way, which will show in your customer traction. That should be the fulfill, not, oh, he made so much money.
Have you ever been in a situation like कि अरे where have I landed myself into? इससे तो अच्छा कभी job ही कर लेते, या पता नहीं, would have done successfully in some other place or something. Have you ever felt like that, or you're always?
So great point. It takes me back to the conversations that I have with my young adult kids. I find the terms could have, should have, would have, 99% of times a colossal waste of time. Learn whatever you could have or should have or would have done, but why are you talking about that? Like keep that, introspect over it. Okay, learn from it, but talk about what you want to do.
Wanted.
Yeah. And as we talked about the fail part, like, and not, because it'll be a much bigger regret not doing something throughout your life.
Hmm.
So, I mean, you go to the US, I wish, India's, I mean, people who have the grass is greener mindset will perpetually remain unsatisfied. So pick a lane, right? I mean, on that lane could be an accident ahead, or could be the road to, redemption. I mean, pick a lane, the intention matters.
Hmm.
Because who can predict what will happen? Yeah, learn from it. You can say, yeah, I mean, I learned something.
Why did you leave the US? There the opportunities are always more, or maybe like there was no dearth of things that you could have done there also. Why did you come back?
Well, I mean, for sure, love for India. But, it's funny, I love the US also, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of, the analogy I give is, the US, you can think of India as my mother and US as my father, because you love both your parents, but, because they both bring different values, different, perspectives to you. So I never, it's not a zero sum game. When I praise India, it's not at the cost of the US or vice versa. Every country has its benefits, its pros, its cons, things you agree with, don't agree
They're
with.
the standard of living and all the problems that sometimes you would hear here कि roads ऐसी हैं, population ऐसी है, the bureaucracy is like this, the ease of doing business, and n number of things you would hear about India, which are no problems there. They might be having some other issues, politically and whatnot, but the life is more comfortable there. Wouldn't you not? Would you not say that?
Not at all. I wouldn't say it's more comfortable. I wouldn't say it's less comfortable. It's your context. What matters to you? What mattered to me? There's a lot of Indianness in me, right? I love, like I said, I love the innovation culture, the question the status quo culture of the US. I don't like certain things about the US. I don't like certain things about my dad. I don't like certain things about my mom, like that. But I love my mom.
Of course.
But the point is, I don't agree with everything, that like, so the point simply is, it's not like US is better. I don't like these absolute statements, or India is better. What's your context? What's your stage? For you, in some situations, US is going to be better. For certain situations, India is going to be better. So, I've noticed, I mean, beyond, what you create, like having spent so much time, 20, 25 years in the US, having spent 25 years in India, people are people over time. If you're going to be a social person, you'll find your social groove in the US, or you'll find it in India. If you are more of a introverted, or just, you don't like socializing, then you'll build that life. And at least the two, both are being democratic countries. I think that's one of the best parts about our two countries, and that's why it's done so well. The US-India relationship, notwithstanding the current situation, but has done incredibly well in the last 20 years.
Maybe you have made enough money to take care of your roti kapda makan and all that. Now, what does still drive you? Ki, I have to still solve more problems. What is
That's the driving force. Like, your mind doesn't retire. Ask yourself in your own friend, how many times does the word Trump come up? Can you do anything about, if you can do something, talk about him. But you can contribute in so many ways. If you want it easy, right? You can say, I've got the money, but fulfillment does not come from easy. Fulfillment only comes when you overcome adversity. Cherish that, ask for it. Like, I think Jensen Wang, he said something like, saying, in his recent thing, he said, I wish upon you difficulties. He tells the students, that, saying.
What do you advise to your kids? As in, like, give me like top 2, 3 parenting advice that you would like to share.
Learn from your kids. They know a lot at every age.
I have heard many people say that, but do they say it in like it's obviously sounds great, but then what can you learn from your kids which you perhaps don't already know, because you have been a kid yourself, right? Like,
Except again, yes, you have, but the context keeps changing, right? Like, my world, the way I saw things, the way I talk to my parents, and I can't expect the same from them, because they're in a new world, they're different world, their context is different. By learning, I mean, just don't try to, guide them, nudge them, but don't, impose is probably too strong a word. Most probably don't impose. But one thing I learned from somebody who wrote a very nice book said, until that age, 12 or 13, you were the manager. Think of, you were the manager of, you managed everything. After that, become a consultant, he said. You're no longer the manager. So meaning, consult when you're asked. Because people say, I can't be friends with my kids. That's fair enough. All that's fine. But you can become a consultant, because then the approach, the number of suggestions imposed, whatever you want to call it, will change. The way you will talk to them will change as a consultant, versus if conversations are synchronous, and then anything can break that, right? So I started writing to them. So I could get my own thoughts in place, and they could read it at their pace, right?
And there's no over talking over each other. That's the main part.
Exactly.
I think.
So I found that to be more effective. At least at the very least, I felt I was able to express myself.
Yeah. Anything else that you think, like,
we all complain about phone, we ourselves using phones, our kids using phones, and it's the best thing you can do is, take a trek for 5 days, 7 days, father, daughter, husband, wife, alone, siblings, any combination, friends, right?
More families, spending time with them together in a natural
nature. Yeah, it doesn't, you don't have to be religious. It just, you leave everything. You're just there. The breeze, the clarity, the purity. It's and I just don't think enough Indians do it. And it's, by the way, it's very cost effective.
Wouldn't kids say, "Yeah, I'm getting bored here. I want my own my video games or whatever"?
That's why I start early. Those who start early on trek for life. So they'll fall in love with it. So don't go in. It's harder as they get older.
If you were to start something today without with all your experience, but maybe not with all your money or contacts and all that,
I actually think in the early stages, the 0 to 1 stage, it's better not having funding. You're in formula discovery mode. And if you have too much funding too early, then it's, it's evasive, because now you're just throwing money at the problem versus, yes, it
Real
gives you the
solution.
time to solve it and
Uh,
all that, but recognize that.
how do I find the problem to solve?
So honestly, I think everybody has recognized problems, whether it's in your society, whether it's in traffic. Like I said, why is India so dirty? Like why are there stray dog problems? Right?
Yeah.
We all talk about these. So I don't think, why is there a war? Are you on the Palestine side? Are you on the Israel? I mean, all
But
the
many of
problems are there. These
these,
are all problems, is what I'm saying.
yeah.
Right now, if you want to help, like, maybe you can start journalism to educate more people about the Palestinian view, or the, Israeli view, or sort of neutral view, or whatever. I'm saying,
Many of these are like out of my hands, which I can really do something about it. Let's say if India is dirty, or there are so many potholes, or traffic problem is there. Now this involves a lot of governmental thing, but where the people are doing startups are like, let's say in some software business or making some kind of a product and this and that. So the problems that I see in day to day or in my friend circle when I talk are different as compared to the ones that I would rather start a company for. I don't know
so
if I'm
you get, no, no, I get it, and that's why, I mean, I'm trying to accomplish two things by giving you those examples. How much time are you spending wasting your time talking about problems you can't solve?
true.
So I'm helping you figure.
Yes.
That's why I'm bringing that up, because I know 90% of you can't do anything about the traffic,
Yeah.
right? So why are you talking about it?
Or else do
You're
something about
wasting your time and other people's time, or do something. So now when you put yourself through that filter, now you're going to start spending more time on identifying things that you can do something about.
it. Hmm.
So when you solve a problem, then at some point when you're solving problems, people are willing to pay for it.
So not just start from like what is going to get me money, rather than what is a problem that I am
Yes.
good at maybe solving, or that's the attitude that you need to have.
Yes.
These days people say build for purpose, and so there is like kind of profit and purpose sometimes are in alignment, but sometimes they are not so much because one comes over the cost of other.
I mean, who's to say? Let's say Infosys, right? It's not known to be a NGO. It's for profit, but look at what they did. Now, did they do it to create jobs in India? Did they do it to profit themselves? It's yes to all of it. But and what did they created an ecosystem that created? That's what I meant by the positive energy that came out of all of that. But the purpose was to help customers, and they did it well. Whether it started with COBOL, like low, maintenance work that America didn't want to do, and Y2K work, but look what it opened up. Today they run the French Open.
So one of my last questions, or maybe the last question, is like I want to just understand top two, three, four learnings that you have had in your life.
Life is short, right? We all hear that. I didn't turn on the lights. You didn't turn on your lights. You're not going to turn off your lights. I don't know when my lights are going to get turned off. In between, right? Be productive. Be happy, right? I love that old adage, where they say, like, all of us are going to get squeezed. If you're an orange, and when you get squeezed, is the sweet juice going to come out, or is it going to be kadwa? Is it going to be bitter? So if you feel there's a lot of bitterness inside,
Mhm.
um, work through that, come out of it, because life is short. So change your perspective on things, be positive for sure. Entrepreneur, work, doesn't matter. Retired person, spread happiness. So be happy inside, and I think Indian spirituality goes a long way there. Only then can you be a positive contributor to those around you, family, friends, colleagues, communities.
And how do you define happiness?
When, lack of bitterness to me is happiness.
Very nice, very nice. I think it was really very nice, Bijal. Thank you so much for your time.
My
I
pleasure.
really there were quite a few perspectives which would be really helpful, like new perspectives that I could come across.